Good morning, everybody. We're live from the birdhouse. It is Saturday, November 5th, and today's topic is the LBJs, the little brown jobs, those little sparrows that you can see bouncing around in your yard or when you're out birding. We'll go over some of the more common species that you can find here in the upstate New York area and through most of the Northeast as well. So if you're viewing from another location, this should still apply to you. We do have a couple events coming up, which I thought I would share with you. On Thursday, November 17th, we're actually having an evening event with local author and photographer couple Randy and Nick Minotaur. They just released this brand new book called Backyard Birding and Butterfly Gardening. And this is the second edition. So this brand new version has not only everything you need to attract birds to your backyard, but it also has a really great butterfly gardening section. So talking about the different plants that you can use to attract butterflies to your yard, as well as other pollinating insects. So that's pretty exciting. And we're going to have an evening reception with them. So that is going to be Thursday, November 17th. We do have it on our website from 6 till 8 p.m. They will be here talking about their new book. They travel all around the country. They do guidebooks for different parks, for national parks, and they've got lots of great stories and pictures to share. So they'll be showing some pictures and some stories. So you can come in anytime between 6 and 8, and we'll have some food, we'll have some drinks, so you can join in on the fun. So that's coming up, in a little over a week or so, about a week and a half. And we're also going to be joined by Stan Tequila. A lot of you guys know him from his Birds of New York guide. He'll be joining us in 2 weeks on this Saturday live stream on the 19th. We'll be chatting with Stan about what's going on in the bird world. We'll see what's new with him, what kind of new titles he's put out. He is constantly out new books. So we'll touch base with him and see how he has been. And we'll be raffling off one of his books as well during that broadcast. So you want to make sure to tune in live in order to be able to win a signed copy of one of his newest books. So that's going on the 19th. So that's 2 weeks from now. We'll be chatting with Stan. So make sure to tune in for that because he's always a lot of fun. And as far as things go around the birdhouse, we've gotten in some things that I know are really popular year after year. So I thought I'd share them with you because once we sell out of them, we're out for the season and they tend to go pretty quickly. So I wanted to give you guys a heads up. We've gotten in a lot of our holiday seed shapes, fun little gift type of things. Like this is a set of 2 pine cones covered with seed and there's nice little holiday trimmings at the top. These make really good gifts. So usually we sell out of these super, super quick. So I just wanted to let you guys know we've got those back in stock and all kinds of different shapes. So that was 2 pine cones. We have these massive other single pine cones. These are really popular as gifts. And if you happen to be watching from a different location and you aren't in the upstate New York area, you can buy these on our website. We did put these pine cones up on the website as well because we do get so many requests from them. So we've got those. We also have the fun little holiday seed ornaments. Like this one's a snowman. If you can kind of see it there, looks a little snowmanish. So we've got these in different shapes, which are really fun and make great gifts. And then we've got some larger ones too. So we've got like this larger snowman, which is very cute, more snowman looking than the other little one. And then for the first time ever, we have these flaming hot wreaths. So we normally carry birdseed wreaths in general, but this is the first year we've been able to get in these flaming hot wreaths. And these we have very few of left. And I know a lot of you guys feed that Flaming Hot Feast seed log and seed blend. So if you're looking for a gift for somebody who's got lots of squirrels, you can't go wrong with this. Only the birds will eat it. The squirrels will leave it alone due to that hot sauce that's in it. So these are super limited. We only got a couple cases of these in and they have been selling already. So if you want to get one of these, definitely now is the time to buy those because they will be sold out fairly soon. And we're putting out our holiday stuff. I know it's early, but so many people have been asking. So we've got all kinds of fun ornaments, tons of cardinals that are going out. We're putting new stuff out right now, actually, as I speak, we've got a gang out there in the store putting all kinds of fun stuff out, trimming the trees. So if you want first dibs on some of our new holiday merchandise, now is the time. We've got like these great mugs that just came in from PPD. These come in a box. So like really, really good gift items, and more will be put out over the weekend. So something else to look forward to. And finally, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up our bison. We do have these pretty locally made bison here that you can stick in the ground. This is a company out of Orchard Park, out of Buffalo, and they make these bison that stick right in the ground. The company is called Go Pink Buffalo. The bison here itself is made in Honeoye Falls, and then even the metal rods here that are used to stake it in the ground are made in the Carolinas. So it's all made in the US, and they come in different colors. They come in red and blue. We have them in pink. We have them in green. So you could show off your spirit here, your local spirit, and root for the Bills with these fun bison. So people have really, really enjoyed these. So I thought I would share those with you as well. And it's a local company, so that's always great. So enough of that. Let's get started. As always, we love to know who's on. So you can always say hi in the comments. If you have any questions, throw those in there. And if you have any sightings, we always love to know what kind of things you're seeing, especially at your feeders. If you've got some new activity with some different birds, absolutely throw that into the comments here. But let's get started talking about some of the LBJs, the little brown jobs that are bouncing around your yard and feeders. Some of these guys are going to be seasonal, so you won't see them all year. Some of them do migrate, so I'll make sure to tell you which ones you can see now and which ones are more seasonal. The first one to begin with, because this is probably the one you see the most of. If you're anything like me and you go out and fill your feeders, this is what we'll be covering them as soon as you fill them. House sparrows. So house sparrows are really our most common sparrow that you'll find here. They are an introduced species, so people have some strong feelings about them, usually in a negative way due to the amount of food that they consume, that they're so numerous, and that they do compete for nest sites often with native birds, for example, bluebirds. So people can have some mixed feelings about the house sparrows, but they are really the most common sparrow species that you'll find here. So this is a good one to start with, because once you've identified the house sparrow, it'll help you identify the other ones. They are sexually dimorphic, meaning the male and female look different. So on the left here is the male. Right now, I know in my yard, I've got some that aren't quite looking like this because they are molting and getting into more of their adult plumage. So you might have something that kind of looks like a mix in between the two here. So this is the male on the left, and then this is the female here on the right. If you put out birdhouses, you might get the house sparrows coming in to them. They are cavity nesters. They eat just about everything. So that's another question we get often is, how do I keep sparrows out of my feeders? How do I keep them out of the houses? It can be difficult. They tend to not like the safflower seed as much as they do the other seeds, so that can sometimes help. And as far as nesting season goes, if you've got bluebirds, for example, nesting in a box and you don't want the house sparrows around, we have something called a sparrow scarer you can put on top of that nesting box, and it's shiny reflective tape that dangles down over the entrance hole. And once the bluebirds are established, once they've laid an egg, they won't abandon that nest. So the house sparrows can be scared away by that shiny reflective tape. They don't like shiny reflective things, but the bluebirds will keep coming to the house. So there are a couple things you can do to keep the sparrows away, but this is the house sparrow, most common sparrow you're probably seeing in your yard. In the spring and summer months, so you're probably not going to see them right now, you might find chipping sparrows around, and they're going to be smaller than the house sparrows. So we're using the house sparrow as kind of our guide as far as comparing other birds to it. The chipping sparrow is going to be smaller, and it's got this little chestnut cap on the top of its head. Usually when I see them, I see more than one at a time too. Usually they seem to be in a group of, 4 or 5. So they do have that brightly colored rusty cap on the top of their head. They have what's called a black eye line. So there's a line that goes straight through their eye here. And they don't have any streaking on their belly. So this is the chipping sparrow, commonly found underneath feeders usually. You don't necessarily see them perching on your feeders, but they'll be underneath, kind of cleaning up some of the shells and the seeds that have fallen to the ground. And this is another species you might find in your yard, especially if you're by an open area. If you happen to get bluebirds, you might just get these guys too. These are called field sparrows. Again, more common in the spring and summer. They are kind of a nondescript as far as their features go, but they're small and slender. They have a pink bill, so the color of the bill can help you identify the bird as well. They have a really rounded head, and they have what's called a white eye ring. So if you look around its eye, it does have a ring all the way around it that's white. So that's another identifying characteristic there. And they have a rusty colored crown on the top of their head and a rusty color eye line. So whereas that chipping sparrow had a brightly colored rusty crown, they also had a black eye line, whereas the field sparrow has a rusty colored eye line. Now, the bird that you're more likely to see right now coming into the area is the American tree sparrow. They are more common here in the winter months. We really don't see them so much in the summer. They're a larger plump sparrow, so they're going to be a little bit more plump than your house sparrow. They also have a rusty cap on the top of their head, so they do look kind of similar to that field sparrow. But look at their bill. They have what's called a bicolored bill. So the top of it is black and the bottom of it is yellow. So it is two different colors. So for example, the field sparrow, you can see their bill is just pink, whereas that tree sparrow has the bicolored bill. And they also don't have any streaking on their breast, but they do tend to have a little dot there in the middle of their breast. So that is the American tree sparrow. Fox sparrow are something you might find now, especially underneath your feeders or underneath some shrubs. They are quite large, so they're going to be significantly bigger than, say, your typical house sparrow. They have a really rounded head. They have lots of streaking on them, so they have a reddish brown color with really blurry streaks, so not super defined streaks. They do tend to blur into one another. They have a really gray face, so you can see their face here. It's got a lot of gray on it. And they have a black and yellow bill as well. But this bird is going to be significantly bigger than, say, your tree sparrow, and you can see how much more streaking it has all over its body. So they tend to flow through during migration season. They're more common in yards as they're migrating around. So right now it would be a good time to look for fox sparrow, and I tend to almost hear them before I see them. Not their call, but you can hear them on the ground just kind of rustling things around, especially if you've got leaves around on the ground right now. They might be throwing those leaves around, kind of like a flicker does. If you happen to have northern flicker, the type of woodpecker in your backyard, how they flick things around, they flick the leaves around looking for food, the fox sparrow will do the same. They're pretty noisy, so you might just hear them before you do see them. One of the more common sparrows you might find in your yard right now and during migration season is the white-crowned sparrow. Again, this is another pretty large sparrow, so much larger than your house sparrow. They are overall really gray. So some of these birds are more brownish, but the white-crowned sparrow is really gray in color. They do have a long tail. Their head often looks like, the way the feathers go, it often looks like there's a peak on it. So this picture shows that off really well because they can kind of move those feathers, just kind of how a cardinal can, how they can move those feathers on the top of their heads for communication. The white-crowned sparrows can do that too, so sometimes it's flared up a bit. They have very bold white and black stripes on the top of their heads, thus the name white-crowned sparrow. So you might just have these in your yard right now. If you do, absolutely. If you have any of these guys in your yard right now, I'd love to know. You can put those in the comments. White-throated sparrow, another common bird you might have right now in your backyard, especially underneath your feeders. They have a white patch on their throat. They also have that streaking on the top of their head, kind of like the white-crowned sparrow. But if you look by their eye, they have that yellow spot there between their eye and their bill. So that is a pretty distinctive characteristic. There are different color morphs of the white-throated sparrow. So sometimes they look very, very brown, and they aren't, they don't have that really, really bright white patch under their chin, and they don't have the really, really bright black and white crown. But so there are different color morphs, and that's when something like, we talk about different field guides. So something like this Crosley ID guide is really good now for identifying birds when they might, when they're not in their breeding plumage, when they're either in their juvenile plumage or their non-breeding plumage. So having a guide that kind of shows all those plumages can be very helpful if you've got kind of a weird looking bird in your yard. But the white-throated sparrow does have different color morphs, so they can look kind of variable, but this is a general photo of what they do look like. So that is the white-throated sparrow. In the spring and summer months, again, if you're out in the fields, if you are seeing field sparrow, you might see this guy as well. This is called the Savannah Sparrow. And like their name suggests, they do like wide open habitats. They have a small bill. They have a really short tail. So in comparison, their body, their tail's really, really short. They've got lots of streaking on their body with a streaked breast. And they also have a yellowish patch here above their eye. It's going to be longer than, say, the white-throated sparrow usually goes a little bit further back, and it's not as bold, but they have that yellowish stripe over the eye. Not something you're probably going to see now, but more common in the spring. Summer months are going to be Savannah sparrow. We have Vesper sparrow. They like that same kind of open habitat, but just another type you might find. But another bird, another sparrow around here that we can find year-round, although they're not super chatty right now, are going to be these song sparrows. And like their name suggests, they sing and sing and sing. During breeding season, they're usually one of the first bird calls that I start to hear. So they love to sing. Song sparrows are, they're not super common backyard bird, but I've gotten them in my backyard a few times, popping around again underneath the feeders, or if there's a big group of house sparrows, sometimes there's a song sparrow sprinkled in there with them. So they have more of a rounded head. They have a long rounded tail, so their tail is quite long in comparison to, say, the Savannah sparrow. And they have some streaking on their breasts with a central spot. So there's usually a spot there right in the middle where it all kind of congregates. And they have what's called a mustache stripe or mylar stripe, or a malar stripe, which is right here. So it almost looks like they've got a little mustache there coming down from their bill. So I know some of you have been getting song sparrow recently, so I threw that one in here. There's also a swamp sparrow, more common in the warmer months, but they are seen here in the fall as well. So swamp sparrows, you're going to find them, like the name suggests, the name itself can sometimes help you identify them just as much as the look of the bird. You'll find them around water, so around marshes and cattails. So if you see something that looks like a sparrow perched up on some cattails, could very well be a swamp sparrow. They have a really gray face. So if you look at their face in comparison with some of these other sparrows, the swamp sparrow has a really gray colored face. They have a rounded tail. They also have a rusty cap on the top of their head and a dark line that goes through their eye. So that is the swamp sparrow. And finally, as far as sparrows go, here is another one that you can find in your backyard. This one is going to be very common in the winter months. Some of you guys have been starting to see them pretty frequently at your feeders. I'm still waiting for some at my feeders, actually. But this is the dark-eyed Junko. And they look quite a bit different from the other sparrows that we've seen today. They're very, very gray. They are gray on the top, and they do have a white belly, and they've got that little pink bill. And when they fly, their tail feathers have bright white stripes along the edges of them. So if you see these flashes of white and you don't really get a good look at the bird, it's probably going to be a dark-eyed Junko. They do come to feeders really, really often. They like sunflower seeds, sunflower hearts. They'll eat millet. They'll eat things off the ground. So I tend to see them on the ground, more so on the feeders, but they will come to both. So dark-eyed junco are definitely back. I've seen some while out hiking, but I haven't seen any at my feeders yet. But they will be here all winter long. This is south for them for the winter. So we do get some that breed here in the spring, and they'll stay here through the summer, but it's pretty uncommon. So they're more common now in the cooler months as we get into winter. And I thought I would share with you guys also some birds that are starting to flow into the area, or might be starting to flow into the area. This is the time of the year where they're starting to be seen in general. The first is the common redpoll. So common redpoll, there haven't been any spotted locally yet this winter. We had some last winter. I believe it was 2 years ago. We had a great year for common redpoll where they were all over the place. But you might see these at your feeders. So they come to finch feeders. So if you have a Niger feeder out or something with the finch blend in it, the finch favorite blend, be on the lookout for common redpoll. They are small birds, a little bit smaller than a goldfinch, but about in that same size range. And they've got a red cap on the top of their head. So it's like a raspberry colored cap. It almost looks like somebody took, fingerprint and just like put it on the top of their head. But those are common redpoll. So you'll find them at finch feeders. If you have pine tree feeders in your yard, they tend to cling onto the pine cones. They're one of those birds that can cling at all kinds of crazy directions, like a chickadee can. So you might see them feeding from pine cones in your backyard as well if you have pine trees. But so far, none have been reported, but we'll keep you posted. This is one of those birds that can be an eruptive visitor, where all of a sudden we'll have a year where there's so many of them. Again, a bird common in the winter, more common in the winter, and we don't see them in the spring and summer months. Evening grosbeak, there have been some evening grosbeak spotted. So this used to be a really common feeder bird, but their populations have been in some really big declines. But there have been some seen this year, especially around the lakeshore out in Webster. People have been seeing them. They do come to feeders sometimes. So they're in that same family as the cardinal, and you can kind of see that resemblance there in their bill. They've got that big, thick bill, and they eat the same kind of foods that the cardinal will. So if you have something out right now that is attracting cardinals, then that is all you would need to attract the evening grosbeaks. They like sunflower seed, either black oil sunflower seed or the sunflower hearts are perfect. They'll eat the safflower seed. So any kind of mix like that is great. And the grosbeaks are common in migration season sometimes. So again, this is another eruptive visitor that that we might just get more of this winter, and they have been seen recently. So just this past week or so, people have been reporting them. So keep an eye out. You just might get those at your feeder as well. Northern Shrike. So this isn't a bird you'll necessarily see in your backyard, but they do, as you're out hiking or what have you, you might just happen to see them. They are a small bird, not much bigger than a songbird, and they do eat other small mammals. They'll eat large insects if they can find them. They're called the butcher bird sometimes is their nickname. They're known for taking their prey and impaling it on sharp things, whether it be spikes of a tree or barbed wire. This is the bird that does that. This is the shrike, and northern shrike are seen here in the cooler months, and now is about the time where people start to report them more often. So be on the lookout for northern shrike as well. Purple sandpiper. Normally we think about shorebirds being more common in the spring and summer months, which is true. But there are some here in the winters, purple sandpiper being one of them. And there have been some spotted out by the Braddock Bay area recently. So keep your eye out for purple sandpiper if you're by the water. And if you're by the water, there's different waterfowl we've talked about that are around, and some different types that you just might see are birds like this Harlequin duck. Not a really common bird, but it's not uncommon to have one or two around in the cooler months. So none have been spotted yet this year to my knowledge, but keep an eye out for Harlequin Duck, especially out by the lake or out by Irondequoit Bay. That's normally where you can find some of these guys. Same with king eider. They are sometimes spotted around as well in the cooler months. And then long-tailed duck. So long-tailed duck definitely have been seen. They are flowing back into the area. They'll be here all winter long. If you are by any place that has water, if you're by the lake, if you're by the bay, any place with open water where you're looking for waterfowl, you'll probably see some long-tailed duck. Really, really beautiful species that we can find here, again, only in the winter. So most people think of spring as being the big birding season, which is true. But in the winter, it can be really fun too, because there's certain species that you can only find here during those cooler months. So that is everything I had prepared for you guys today. If you have any comments or questions, you can absolutely put them in the comments here. Let's see, it looks like Doug is on. He says, hi. Hello there, Doug. Linda has a question. She says, is there a guide strictly for sparrows? Yes, there actually is. And I did pull it because we do happen to have it. There is a Peterson guide to sparrows of North America. So if you want to get your sparrow fix in, this is a really good book. It's done by Rick Wright. And this goes through all of the different types of species that you can find in North America. And there's some interesting stuff in here too. We didn't go through every species that you could find here locally. That would take a bit longer. But there's different variations too of certain species. Like, for example, the dark-eyed Junkos, how they looked for us here. They are super variable and they look really different out west. So out west, the Junkos can be super, super variable. They can be more black, they can be more kind of chestnut colored. There's lots of different color variations for the Junko. So that's just one example there. But yeah, there is a guide just to sparrows, and that's this one, the Peterson Sparrow Guide. Fairly new book. I think in the past few years it was put out. So we do have a couple copies of it here still left at the store at the birdhouse. So we do have those. Looks like Ed is on. Ed says, good morning, all, and says, great show. Thank you, Lynn. Bob is on. Bob says, Merlin App caught a horned lark around the neighborhood. Ooh, but no sighting. Yeah, so horned larks can be found in, again, around this time of the year. And probably around an open field would be my best guess, although Bob gets all kinds of crazy good birds. So it could just be in his backyard. But a horned lark, anytime I've seen them, they tend to be in a field. And this is what they look like. This is from the Birds of New York guide here. So for example, if you're going out to look in a field for like snow buntings or something like that, keep your eye out for horned lark as well, because they're usually seen in the same kind of, see if it says in this book exactly. I'm not totally sure, but yeah, anytime I've seen them, their habitat seems to be a wide open space. So say if you had a spot where you saw bluebirds earlier in the season, like an open meadow, that would be a good place to look for the horned lark. So really cool sighting there. And yeah, that Merlin app will pick up bird calls year round. It's not just during breeding season. I've been getting Carolina wrens singing their hearts out. It can sometimes pick up birds just by their little chip calls. So really cool app to play around with if you're hearing some kind of bird activity in the area. So it looks like that's everybody's comments and questions. We will be back on Tuesday with another broadcast. So until then, feel free to stop in the store, check out some of the new stuff that we're putting out. We're definitely busy over here. And browse our website if you're looking for some gift ideas or anything like that, or if you want to pick up some of these gift ideas while we still have them in stock. I'd highly recommend to buy them early. So until then, we'll be back on Tuesday with another broadcast, and have a great weekend. Take care. Bye-bye.